What's going on, everyone? It's Joshua, aka Future Filmmaker 3940, aka Future Filmmaker 3940 Reviews, where we talk movies, TV, and music. And with the release of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the final part in the Skywalker Saga being released today, it is time to stop and rank the Star Wars movies, all 11 movies, from the weakest to the strongest. Now, Star Wars is definitely one of my favorite franchises. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I've enjoyed every single film in this Star Wars franchise. Even the Disney ones. A lot of people give them crap. I am one of the defenders of the prequels as well as the Disney ones. And this is going to be a controversial ranking, so in the comment section down below, what is your ranking of all the Star Wars movies? Are you going to see The Rise of Skywalker? Are you not? There will be no spoilers in this ranking to The Rise of Skywalker, because it's best to go and judge yourself. And by the way, none of these movies I hate. Even one movie, two movies on this list I don't hate. I enjoy all of them, but let's get into the ranking right now. And be sure to follow all my social media links in the description box down below, and make sure to hit the subscribe button for more Epictasticness. With that being said, let's get started. In 11th place is Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. This is not a bad movie. I still very much like a lot of things in it. Ewan McGregor's performance, I still really love him as Obi-Wan. I love the lightsaber action. I do like Jango Fett, and I do like the way this movie looks. And I do like Natalie Portman and Samuel Jackson and the rest of the performances in here. But even with those things I do like, looking back at Attack of the Clones, there is a lot of things in this movie I very much despise. There is less Jar Jar, I'll give you that. There are some moments where the CGI isn't really that good. The political undertones does get a little carried away in this movie. And the dialogue in this movie, especially with the love story between Anakin and Padme, is some of the most cringiest, Twilight-esque love dialogue that I have ever heard. It makes After look like an Oscar contender at the Academy Awards 2020. If there was such a thing. And also Hayden Christensen, this is easily the weakest performance of the two films that he's been in as Anakin Skywalker. He does come off as a bit of a brat and whiny, but he's still really good. But Attack of the Clones is still a really fun movie. Coming in 10th place is Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace. This movie, I still very much enjoy The Phantom Menace. It is flawed in terms of Jar Jar Binks, the writing, the characterization for characters, and also there is some unnecessary stuff that George Lucas did not need to put in here, like the midichlorians, Jar Jar Binks being annoying as crap, and also half of this movie they just walk and talk and walk and talk. But it did have some entertaining moments in it. I still love the lightsaber fights, I still love the action, I still like the characters in this movie for the most part. And I think the performances are really good. Jake Lloyd's Anakin Skywalker, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because he was a kid at the time and he has suffered enough bullying as it is. But that doesn't excuse the fact that he was annoying as young Anakin Skywalker, but he still does a good enough job in his performance. And some of the CGI isn't the best, but all in all, I do very much like The Phantom Menace to a certain extent. 9th place. Ooh, this is gonna 9th place. Solo: A Star Wars Story. Solo: A Star Wars Story, I still feel the same way as I did the first time I watched it, even though I do like it a lot more. I feel like the problem with Solo: A Star Wars Story is that we did not need a Han Solo movie. And I do have positives with this movie. I think Donald Glover was really great as Lando Calrissian. I thought Alden Ehrenreich, he made a good Han Solo. He's not on the level of Harrison Ford, but considering the shoes he has to fill, he could have been a heck of a lot worse. And for the action, when it's there, it's there. And Ron Howard did the absolute best he could with this movie, despite the whole creative differences that was going on with this movie and the production trouble that was going through it. And I did like Emilia Clarke as Kira, and I did love the parts with Chewbacca and Han Solo. Everything else, however, is just kind of bland. You can see there is a lot of tones and clashing differences going on. The villain was very boring and generic, and Paul Bettany did a good job as the villain, but there's nothing to him. This movie feels heavily unnecessary, and you don't get much out of most of these characters, except for the ones that you do know you'll see again in future movies. But I will say the solo Star Wars story is a good time. No alcohol required. It's not the worst thing ever. I can see why this movie bombed, but it's not the worst thing ever. Coming in 8th place this is going to be a very controversial pick, but Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. This is my least favorite of the original Star Wars trilogy, but The Empire Strikes Back is still a really great movie. It takes everything that was set up in A New Hope and makes it better and bigger and more darker. Irvin Kershner's direction was perfection with this movie. I think the writing was really strong. You get a good love story with Han Solo and Princess Leia. All the performances are really great. A fantastic introduction to Yoda. I really love Yoda. The training sequences with Mark Hamill and Frank Oz and R2-D2 are some of the most greatest things to watch, and you have very quotable lines in this movie. Do or do not. There is no try. You got interesting, cool character in Boba Fett, even though he doesn't do anything. James Earl Jones and David Prowse as Darth Vader is still a fantastic villain. And that fight between Luke and Darth Vader is one of the most iconic scenes ever. Especially when he says, "I am your father." That is one of the best cinematic reveals in film history. The reason why this is down there is because even though I love the movie, I do love the special edition more over the unaltered version, and I do prefer A New Hope and Return of the Jedi over this. But this is still a really great film. In number 7, recently, is Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Now, I just reviewed this one, so if you want to see my thoughts on that, you can check my review out. I will not be doing the spoiler review, so don't ask. But I will just say that this does a fine, entertaining job at closing out the Skywalker Saga in the most satisfying way. You have some great moments here, some excellent fan service, a lot of twists and turns that works, great performances from everyone. I loved what JJ Abrams did for this one in terms of direction. But the reason why this is number 7 is because I just reviewed it and I can't really go into detail about some of the things that bothers me because I will be going into spoiler territory. What they do with Rey, I don't really like. There are some moments in terms of the script where it's not really the best. And there are parts here where it feels like you could easily made this longer and took this out. And for the 2 hours and 22 minutes, it's not enough time to fully tell most of the twists and turns. That doesn't really work. And there is some unneeded things in this film. But The Rise of Skywalker was still a great time, in my personal opinion. And this will be on my best of 2019. I'll promise you that. Coming in 6th place is Star Wars Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith. This is the best of the prequel trilogy. It is awesome. This movie pulled no punches. It went for the PG-13 R rating. Same thing with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which was released in the same year as this. You get to see the story of Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader. And it feels like this is the story George Lucas wanted to tell all along. But it did take some stepping stones to get there. I still think that Ewan McGregor makes a fantastic Obi-Wan Kenobi. There is action up the ass up in this movie, especially that final confrontation between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is very emotional and very powerful, especially with Ewan McGregor's "You Are the Chosen One" speech. George Lucas directed this movie to his absolute core. The music was really great. The visual effects are really great. Chewbacca and the Wookiees on planet Kashyyyk, that was fun. Seeing Mace Windu and the Emperor go, it was awesome. Hayden Christensen was absolutely great as Anakin Skywalker. It does come off as a Shakespearean tragedy, but I like it. And it still has issues in terms of the dialogue or with the love story. And there are some very cheesy moments, but the Revenge of the Sith was absolutely phenomenal and is absolutely one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Coming in 5th place, we're getting into the big ones here. Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I have defended this movie ever since it came out, and I still defend this movie. There are some problems though. Some of the stuff that Rian Johnson puts in this movie doesn't really work. I do feel like this movie goes on for a way too long. It's 2 hours and 32 minutes, and there were some unneeded things that you could have taken out. And I didn't really care too much for the side plot with Rose and Finn, but I did like Rose as a character in Kelly Marie Tran's performance. And Kelly Marie Tran, she's hot. And I like what some of the choices that Rian Johnson went, and some of the comedy doesn't really work for this film. But what Rian Johnson did was he pulled off a movie that does something different with the Star Wars universe, especially after the reception of The Force Awakens. I love what he did with Luke Skywalker. I like that he took a character who is a very badass character and broke him down into what he is in this movie. I love the consequences of actions with what goes on in this film. Adam Driver is fantastic as Kylo Ren. Daisy Ridley is great as Rey. The performances were great. The action was really great, and Carrie Fisher being good in this movie, even though it's hard to watch her in these newer Star Wars movies now that she's gone, I still think that she did a great performance, and I get what Rian Johnson was going for. So, despite some nitpicks I still have, I will say that The Last Jedi is a better movie than what people have said. Coming in 4th place is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I still like this movie very well, but the issue I do have with Rogue One is the fact that you don't know much about the characters. That is pretty disappointing. The only character you kind of know something about is Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor. You don't know much with Saul Guerrero and the rest of the characters who you're supposed to be rooting for and caring for on this mission of getting the Death Star plans. And there is some CGI that doesn't really work with Governor Tarkin. I feel like there should have been more scenes with Darth Vader instead of General Tarkin. And the CGI Carrie Fisher still looks really good. And you can tell there are some clashing moments because this movie did go into reshoots, and it feels like there was some stuff they took out and some stuff that doesn't really work. But I still think that Rogue One was still a very solid anthology film. It has great performances from Felicity Jones and the rest of the cast. I really like the direction that they chose to go along with, and I really enjoyed what Gareth Edwards was doing. So Rogue One is my number 4. Coming in third place is Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. George Lucas created a fantastic first film to introduce us to the characters that we know and love. Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2. A New Hope is absolutely amazing. But without his wife, or ex-wife, Marsha Lucas, this wouldn't be the movie that we got. Because there was some troubles making this movie, but despite all the troubles that went into this, A New Hope turned out to be a phenomenal film that changed cinema, influenced a lot of future movie makers like myself. And the characters are well enriched and well developed. There's not a whole lot of action going for it because this is the first film and you're setting up the world. I really love John Williams' score. Darth Vader's introduction is perfect. It's so awesome. It's so badass. The visual effects are still really holds up for the time. The dialogue is well written. Everyone does a great job in the acting departments. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Alec Guinness, David Prowse, James Earl Jones. This is just a phenomenal start to what has become a great franchise. Coming in number 2 is Star Wars: The Return of the Jedi, Episode 6. This is the best of the original trilogy. A lot of people have issues with this movie. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the Ewoks or it's not as good as Empire Strikes Back. But it didn't need to be as good as The Empire Strikes Back. All it needed to be was its own movie that does its own thing. And Return of the Jedi does a phenomenal job at closing out this original trilogy on a banger. You get the ultimate confrontation between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. You get the ultimate satisfying battle between the Death Star and our freedom fighter of heroes with Han Solo, Princess Leia. I love the Emperor in this movie. I love James Earl Jones and Mark Hamill in this movie. I love the fact that he's trying to bring his father back from good. The green lightsaber is so awesome. And the Emperor is so cool in terms of Ian McDonald. The story was definitely a great one. The writing was great. Richard Marquand was great. I love the little bears. Okay, the Ewoks. I get it. They're not bears, they're Ewoks. But they look like little bears. The Ewoks were really great. I love Wicket the Bear. And I just love this movie. There's a lot of things I really love. Even the special edition, I love the change at the end where they wanted to make it more accurate. So, Return of the Jedi is a great start. It's a great end to the original trilogy. But as my number 1 favorite Star Wars movie, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Hate on me in the comments, dislike the video. I don't really give a shit anymore about what you think of this movie. The Force Awakens, I love The Force Awakens. It does feel like Episode 4, A New Hope, but I appreciate that. I like that. I really like the story in this movie. I love seeing Han Solo and Chewbacca and General Leia back. I love the new characters of Rey, Poe Dameron, and Finn. The action was really well done. JJ Abrams, he brought back the Star Wars series in full force. I've been a lover of Force Awakens ever since the 2015 release. Kylo Ren is a very menacing villain, and I like the look of his lightsaber. It's really awesome. My only problem with The Force Awakens is that I wish Luke Skywalker was in this movie more. Now, I know this movie is about finding him, but I do wish he was in it a little more for the little couple seconds that he gets. But I love the music by John Williams. The cinematography and the special effects are great. Rey is a compelling character, not knowing much about her. And Daisy Ridley is fantastic in this movie. And despite the fact that they're not going to make any more movies with these three actors after this, because they don't want to do any more Star Wars movies, I will say that The Force Awakens still holds up for me personally. If I know my good friend John Avenger 7195 is disappointed with the way Star Wars has been going, and that's perfectly fine. I respect his opinion. So, all in all, The Force Awakens is my favorite Star Wars movie, no doubt. That was my ranking of the Star Wars saga from the worst to the best. And let me know what you guys think. Star Wars ranking down below. What is your ranking? Do you like my ranking? Do you not like it? Be sure to follow all my social media links in the description box down below to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Stardust, Letterboxd, my merchandise store, my official website, my podcast on Spotify. Be sure to follow all of that in the description box down below. You guys keep it cool, enjoy the Epictasticness. And remember, nerds and geeks, my Epictastic family, the Force will be with you.